0, 1.
Let's get started.
Hey everybody, welcome back to this week's episode of Texas Narcos Podcast. This week I'm very excited to have Craig Meyer on the show, and want to go ahead and welcome Craig. Craig, thanks for coming on today.
Hey, Randy, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Yes, sir. So before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and read a little bit about you. So you began your law enforcement career in 2013 in New Jersey, and then 2017 you moved to Texas, and your current assignment as a patrol sergeant at a police department here in Texas, kind of halfway between Austin and Houston. You're a team leader on the SWAT team, and you currently also teach proactive patrol to officers all around the state and the country. Anything I missed?
No, that's about it. Yeah, I started my law enforcement career in the state of New Jersey, where all my family's from. Come from a long line of law enforcement officers. Still a family there who are still active. And then for family reasons, ended up coming down here at the end of 2017, early 2018, and been with my agency now ever since. And it was the best move I ever made in my life. And still, full time doing the thing out there at the patrol level with our SWAT team, and traveling every month all over the place, teaching my class, which is mastering proactive policing for patrol. It's under Blue to Gold, and still doing the thing, man, burning the candle at both ends, as some would say, trying to juggle it all, but it's good. I love it.
That's awesome. Well, Texas is happy to have you. We're glad you came down to the greatest state in the union.
Yes, sir.
And so right now I'm going to go ahead and give you this. This is a gift. Everybody that comes on the show gets a Texas Narcos Podcast t-shirt.
Yeah.
And you can open that up if you want.
I tried it. Yeah. I like it. Heck yeah. There we go.
All right. There you go.
I like the thanks, man. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
So, well, let's jump right in. So, you said you're from New Jersey.
Yes, sir.
Is that where you grew up?
Yeah, born and raised all my life there. Guess early on, I knew I always wanted to be a cop. Came into this thing with some really good mentors and family members that were in law enforcement, my dad and my uncle. And early on, really young age, watching cops and seeing them do proactive work out there and have a lot of success. I knew it's something I always wanted to do. There's a lot of kids who would say they want to be a cop and they're at that age. A lot of kids do, but that never really changed for me.
Right.
I always wanted to do the thing. And then, as I grew up, in that area where there's not a lot of crime, people be like, oh, it's not like you always see on cops. It's not going to be like that. And I'm like, oh, okay. But then, talking to cops who were really into behavior and being proactive and were in higher crime areas, they're like, yeah, it's like that. Could be like that every day.
Yeah,
that's something that really intrigued me. And helping people by taking some really bad people out of society was how I decided I really wanted to help.
Cool.
So,
well, that that's definitely a big part of the game is, there's lots of people who listen to the show that are into, interdiction. There's people that are into drug interdiction, people that are into money interdiction. And then there's a whole bunch of people that also are really into the proactive patrolling type thing, because, the people who listen, people all around the state, all around the country, they don't always have an interstate coming through their jurisdiction or a major corridor, but they still like to get out there and work and catch bad guys and put bad guys in jail. So hopefully we can cover some stuff that can help them, on their journey to put bad guys away.
Absolutely. Yeah. The majority of us are at the street level, so I'm pulling from that greatest, greatest pool with class. And that's what spoke to me when I was early on in my career. And so that's really where I started really getting into this thing. So,
right. And, I actually got a message, well, it wasn't a message, it was a comment on a post that I had on Facebook today, and they specifically requested you by name.
Oh yeah.
They said, hey, we love the interdiction stuff, or I particularly, this is the person, I work in a town and I would like to hear from Craig Meyer. Do you think you could have him on the show? And lo and behold, here we are.
Yeah, we made this happen really quickly.
Yeah,
man, which I'm excited about. It's a good thing,
For sure. So just know that the people out there, like I said, they reached out and they specifically asked for you to come on. So I'm glad to have you. So early career. So you started your career up in Jersey. Won't you tell me about that? And if you can, a little bit about that and how that went.
Yeah,
And
for sure. So back in 2011, 2012, 2013, that realm, it was still really sought after to be a cop.
Mhm.
There was a ton of people applying for very few spots, so different dynamic then. And even having gone to college for criminology, playing college sports, interning with the New Jersey State Police, having a ton of family in law enforcement, it still took me so many attempts of applying to different agencies and not getting hired.
Right.
And it was really just kind of wearing on me. I'm talking a lot. I applied to a lot of places. There'd be times where I put in applications where there was only one or two spots open, and there were thousands of people applying. And even in at that time, you had to pay $50 to $100 for an application fee. It's a different world up there.
Wow.
And so I was really, after the sixth, seventh, eighth time applying, not getting hired, but I was doing pretty much everything, by the numbers, studying, taking interview class, all that. It just wasn't working out. It was frustrating. And so I actually invested in myself, and I did what's called an alternate route program in New Jersey where you pay your own way through academy. So I
Okay.
had to give up a good private sector job that I had,
Right.
pay about $4,000 to put myself through a police academy for 6 months with no job security, no job.
Wow.
That if I did get my basically my certification, then an agency could hire me, or I would be attractive to an agency because they wouldn't have to pay for me to go through academy, and
Right.
then they could just hire me. So that was the goal. And there was about 10 of us that did that out of the academy that we're in. And there was about 40 something other individuals that had already been hired by agencies and were being put through. So
Wow.
it didn't take long. And in academy, having a lot of the connections and family members and different people in good places, that as soon as I got into academy, within like a week or two, I got picked up by an agency, and it was it was a larger agency for that county. A lot of crime. It didn't pay well,
Mhm.
but it was everyone like that heard that, hey, I got hired by the agency. Was like, oh, you're going to get into stuff. You're
Oh
going to get
yeah.
into stuff. And that's a lot of why I'd taken on that. Taken on that agency.
Right.
So after about 6 months of academy, I get out of I get out, and I'm with an FTO, my first agency. I'm thinking, oh, it's going to be great, and I'm going to get shown, a lot of stuff. And unfortunately, I'd gotten one that just wasn't that into the teaching side of things. It's not
Mhm.
for everybody, but after a couple months, 3, 4 months maybe of the field training there, I didn't really know anything, to the point where I wouldn't know how to do work through any kind of a traffic stop or handle basic calls. And it was really, I was more of a liability, I felt like, at that time, without that
Wow.
good training, because it was the same FTO the entire time. Not You didn't switch. Like down here, we switch FTOs for different phases. There, I had the same one the entire time, and even through Ghost. And so that was, I guess, where it started to really begin, where I wanted to make sure that that never happened to anybody else again, and start
Right.
trying to work towards making making a class, almost like a proactive field training program that was easily applicable after taking it to the street.
Okay.
And so I took it personal. I just didn't want anybody to go through the same struggles and have the same issues that I did. And so after only doing about a year at that agency, for no other reason than pay, I got offered at the neighboring agency of like a big pay jump, like big, where for survival reasons I had to go there, and that was a great agency. I loved it there, and that's where I really started in the proactive thing. So to like kind of like lead into that, when I got there, I had a 17-year veteran who was a very proactive street level officer who wasn't even my FTO, but he saw that I wanted to learn this stuff, and he became my mentor, and he took me under the wing, and he didn't have to do that. And for that reason, I'll never, I'll never be able to thank him enough for what he did. He changed my career and my life. He taught me things, and he was ahead of the curve with being proactive, where people were like thinking you needed to do the job a certain way. He's like, he thought differently,
Right.
and he showed me that, and he took me under the wing. And so that's a huge part of why I'm a mentor to a lot of people now, because if he had not done that for me, if he had not taken me under the wing and showed me the way, like he showed me the basic base layer things, and I took it and ran with it, right? But like if he had not done that for me, there's no way I'd be where I'm at now. There's no way I'd be the mentor that I am at now. So forever thankful for that, to that individual, because he changed the game for me. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah. I think, there's I've been here. I mean, I've been doing this just over 17 years now, and I can think back to my career, and there's definitely people that were involved in the early part of my career that I wouldn't be in the place I am now if it's not those people, and it's very
Yeah.
important that, officers have those type of people that are there to support them because one thing I hate to see is a proactive officer that gets up every morning, puts their uniform on, and all they want to do is catch bad guys and put bad guys in jail.
Yeah.
That's what they live for.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately, they go to agencies and departments, and that's it's stifled. And there's supervisors, there's people out there that don't want. They're like, hey, you just need to go take your calls. You just need to do this. You just do that. And those, it's almost like you take the wind out of their sails. You see the energy just drain out of these guys whenever they're stifled like that, and that's unfortunate. So
it is. And I get messages from those guys all the time trying to, hey, what would you do? Like, what did you do? Because I was there in those shoes, and so it's an unfortunate thing to hear,
Yeah.
But that's why in my class I always teach, like, listen, if there's nothing else, when you leave here, you need to be a mentor. You need to preach what I'm teaching you and what you're about, like, to anyone who's willing to listen. Any of the success you have, preach what helped you to anyone who's willing to listen. Because if you don't, there will be some salty veteran or someone who is toxic that will do it for you.
Right.
And that's bad. Like, we change cultures and we change, I guess we make policing fun again by doing that, right? By being a mentor, by changing the culture through making proactive policing fun again.
Right. That's awesome. So, all right, let's move on. You kind of touched on it. So when and how you got into the proactive policing world, that was back in New Jersey prior to
That's where it started. Okay. Yeah. It was not a high crime area that I worked in.
Okay.
So it allowed us to make a ton of traffic stops, to be nosy, be proactive, make a lot of checks, make a lot of contacts. That's where so at that agency, I was casting a large net, making a ton of traffic stops, not based off behavior, but then seeing how those contacts were going one-on-one, right? So, like, that was really what I was bearing what normal looks like on, was by finding just violations like traffic offenses, making the stop, and then seeing what did normal look like during those contexts, those lawful stops, right? And so I was stopping hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cars in a year, right? And so that was my baseline of what everything after that looked like. And then towards the end of my career in Jersey is when I started to put myself through a ton of different interdiction classes, all these different kinds of training, which I'm all about training no matter who teaches it. I love good training.
Right.
Reading a lot of books, studying a lot of things, taking a lot of classes. And that's where I started to go from casting a large net, stopping a lot of cars and seeing what normal looked like during those contexts, like high volume stops, to way less stops, but a lot higher percentage of quality arrests because of what I was looking at pre-stop, right? Like reaction-based policing, looking at behavior first, finding a violation, then getting it stopped. And I've had a lot of success doing that, and that's what I teach now.
I got you. So, based on, you talk about the baseline. So, which is obviously important to have a baseline because, obviously if you're in court or you're trying to articulate why you believe this person's lying or whatever the case may be, or why you believe that there's criminal activity afoot, you can explain, this is a baseline. This is the way people act when they don't have anything, to lose. They're not going to get in trouble. There's no consequence associated with their questions or their answers. Anyways, would you, is there any difference between the people that you experienced up north in the Northeast and down here in Texas when it comes to the baseline of the average public or the criminal element on these traffic stops? Because like if there's an officer who's listening, he's like, hey, I'm up in New Jersey, I'm in New York, I'm up in the Northeast. People act different here than they do in Texas.
Yeah.
Do you think there's any correlation, or do you think the criminal indicators that you pick up are about the same on, up there or down here?
They are extremely similar to the point where when I came down to Texas and I saw just how much they were doing the same exact things over and over again, I said to myself, wow, this is universal. And what I'm teaching can be taught across the entire United States.
Right.
And now I'm finding that because I have an on-demand platform where sworn officers can take my class online.
Okay.
I've had officers in Australia,
wow,
Canada, the provinces in Canada, the UK, all across the United States take my class with the same behavior, seeing the same results.
Wow.
Because it's built into the human mind. So, because I'm big on the limbic system,
right?
That limbic triggering, that freeze, and I call it this way: the freeze, flight, fight, because that's the way I see it over and over again at the street level and dealing with criminal activity. So that's why it is so universal what I teach. Like my class is not a case law class.
Right.
It's not a penal code class. It focuses on human behavior when people are experiencing extreme stress and anxiety, and then the pacifying behaviors that go hand in hand with those things to try to calm the body back down. But yeah, for sure that they definitely do so many of the same things. It's just no matter what part of the country they're in.
Right. So bad guys up in the Northeast are just like bad guys down here.
Yes,
Only
sir.
difference
Yeah,
is where they live.
yeah. You have little crime trends, but behavior is the
Right.
same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. So the next question, why do you do what you do when it pertains to teaching and doing the proactive patrol?
Um, I love it. I genuinely love it. People who've taken my class and are friends with me, they know like no one is a bigger cheerleader for them having success than me.
That's awesome.
Um, Guys that I worked with on patrol on my team before I promoted, they that were really proactive and put up some really good arrests, great numbers. They know like I never competed against anyone but myself.
Right.
Like those guys that were like in there like competing against me for numbers, whenever they would have a huge grab, a bunch of guns, a bunch of dope, a really high level one fugitive, like no one was more ready to like high five them, be like, great police work than me. I didn't care what numbers were. I never was like, oh man, I gotta try to push. Like the only person I tried to push and like be the best cop I could be was against myself
Right.
and seeing what I could do out there. Um, and then the teaching, I wanted people to have the same success as me. I was finding that people that I worked with that I would mentor and teach these tactics to and these behavior things to, like it would become a culture and I could see the light in their eyes. They'd be like, it would change their career. New guys was changing their career moving forward, and guys with more time on, it was like um, newfound success and glory and career fulfillment,
Right.
and I wanted everybody to have that.
That's
And
awesome.
I because I find that so many people can pick this thing up, and I've created a class and taught it in a way where it is literally they are leaving class and the very same day, the next shift, the first shift they go back, they are having career arrests. They're seeing behavior, and once you see it, you can't unsee it anymore. And I love it.
Right on.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Um, was there any particular stop or traffic stop or arrest or you know a point in your career where early on when you were like, wow, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Was there, that like aha moment,
Yes.
or something like that? And you tell
Yeah.
me about that?
100%. And so it's cool because like in my class, when I was a cop in New Jersey, I didn't have body cameras. So and it was just different up there. So I don't have the video footage or any of these cool things to talk
Mhm.
about in class. So everything in my class you see now is Texas based. But the aha moment I had of when things clicked for me was pretty shortly before moving down here. It was cool. I was sitting on so I worked in a city agency there, but we had a interstate highway or a stretch of highway that went all the way up and down the East Coast. It was 206, so it would go from basically it would go like Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, Vermont, go all the way up there.
Right.
And it was a large highway, but it would trunk down to like one or two lanes in my city. So it really slowed people down. And
I
you'd have
got you.
people from all over the country going up and down. And it was a major area up and down the Northeast that people would utilize to bypass tolls.
Oh, okay.
And so, yeah, we had a lot of the street level stuff, and I got to do really cool stuff on foot over there. But like when I went to, we could literally just pull out of a neighborhood and be on the highway. And it was a really unique
That's awesome.
geographical location, and I think it's changed even since then when I was there. But yeah, so it was really cool. I was in Somerset County. I was an agency in Somerset County at that time, and it was about 2:30 in the morning, weeknight, like a Monday, and I'm sitting in a fixed position setup on the side of the highway. There's very little traffic. Um, and for most cops we know, like when it rains, you know how that goes. Like the same reason that a lot of the dope moves up out of the valley
Right.
during the rain because cops do.
Everybody knows one
Yeah.
stop,
When it's
one
when
drop, no
yeah,
stop.
yeah, once it drops, we don't stop. Yeah. So, but like trusting behavior. And so, like I said, this is early on. I was watching a Quick Check, which is a convenience store chain in most of the United States, similar to like I guess Wawa.
Like a
There's like
Wawa.
Wawas. There's Quick Checks.
Are the
There's
sandwiches really as good as everybody says?
they're good.
That's
Yeah,
good.
I don't want to get like punched out next time I fly home to see
Yeah.
my family, but
Right,
yeah,
right.
they're good. Yeah, we love. I like them both.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I've heard the Wawa stories.
yeah, people fly in and they bring me like a Wawa pretzel and stuff when they're coming to
Yeah,
Texas.
that's
But
awesome.
anyway, it's like 2:30 in the morning and it's raining, and I see these two vehicles and they're kind of caravanning and they're the only two vehicles around at the time, and it's like I said, pouring rain, and then one's a minivan and one's an Impala, and they both have like New York hard plates on them and no bracket around them. And I'm watching them and they start to do a lap around the quick check in the parking lot, and they haven't seen me yet off at the side of the road. And I'm not trying to hide. I'm like high profile. I want people to see me so they react to my presence. But because of the rain, because of the side street they came in on, they just didn't, for no other reason than just entrance and exit. They didn't see me until they made their full lap.
Mhm.
And as soon as they saw me, they both like slammed on the brakes in the parking lot, like that freeze mode that I teach in class. That
Right.
oh, there's a threat, right? React, even if it's for a split second. And they pulled out of the same parking lot without ever stopping or going in this business that they had just driven a full lap around at 2:30 in the morning in the pouring rain, and they pulled out onto the road. And they didn't quite know what to do, which caused them to give me a traffic violation. And now I had a decision: which vehicle do I pick? Because
Which
they were
part?
clearly together.
Yeah.
They're clearly out of state plates. I'm thinking rental. I'm thinking New York rental, something of that nature. And so I'm like, oh, which one do I stop? And so I pick the rear of the two vehicles, just and give me a clear violation on camera. And so I go traffic on the vehicle. I make a traffic stop, and I roll up and I see a lot of behavior going on there, and it's three females. They hand me IDs, and it was a rental, like a private weird rental company based out of New York, out of the Bronx. Literally, not just no reason for being down here. Their stories that make sense. It was a lived-in look. Like if like for rentals, they talk about the rental game. This rental vehicle was lived in look like, so like rentals are extremely expensive.
Right.
People aren't staying in them very long. And this had like personal items throughout it. Like
Right.
like it looked like they'd been using it for a long time, which was through some red flags for me because it was just not normal. Right. Their stories weren't adding up. We got them out, separated them. They actually handed me their legitimate IDs. We ran them. They ended up being wanted. So we took them into custody and then search incident to arrest. Found a bunch of counterfeit bills on them. So that's where this thing is going.
Okay.
Right. So I look in the back seat and they had some other quick check bags from another quick check, right? Not this one because I just watched them come in and out. And inside those bags were Lunchables. Okay. And I'm thinking, oh, I don't really know. I'm like, oh, that's weird, but they counterfeit money. What do we got going on here? So we take them into custody and I go back to my police department, and my sergeant at the time says, hey, like, who do you have back there? And I started telling him, hey, I got this crew out of the Bronx. I don't know what they got going on. That's some counterfeit bills. And he goes, really? I'm like, why? He goes, we have a track flyer on the printer right now of a crew out of the Bronx passing counterfeit bills of 20 something different agencies.
Wow.
Right. They're using a rental vehicle. There's pictures on them of them on there and everything. Like, here, I'll show it to you. Boom. He shows the track flyer and is literally my suspect
Oh
that I
wow.
just stopped and arrested.
That's awesome.
Yeah. What they were doing was they were taking counterfeit 50s and 100s. They were going in a group of like 3 and 4 into a quick check. They would buy a Lunchable for like $2 or $3, and then they would clean the money up. They would get the change back from the
I
50 or
gotcha.
the 100, and that's
Yeah.
what they're doing. They're doing it over and over, and no one had ever ID'd them yet.
And
No
that's
one
how
knew
they
who
got
they
the
were.
multiples.
All these things, yeah. So it spearheaded like a multi-jurisdictional meetup at my agency off of a traffic stop of behavior, seeing like the freeze mode, things that didn't add up, and it solved 20 something different agencies counterfeit bill rings, and they ended up working it back to an apartment in the Bronx where they had all these other bad things going on for illicit stuff, and uh, even back to the rental company that they had going on, and they were all a career criminal history on there. And it started with behavior in a traffic stop
That's
in the
awesome.
rain. And had I talked myself out of it, or had I not been switched on to watching the behavior, I wouldn't have gotten that. And it's one of my most rewarding arrests. It's something I don't have any footage of because it's so much older now and we
Right.
didn't have body cameras, but that's really where it started. Russell, I was like this big, this is where it started. It started with being switched on patrol and working things further and bigger. And so like for me, that's where it started in New Jersey. And that's where I started to really start to build all the patterns I was seeing, all the behavior and all the good arrests I was having, knowing that eventually I'd probably go down to down to Texas from New
Right.
Jersey, and do it even bigger down there.
That's awesome.
So that's where it started. Yes, and I've never shared that one before. That's a cool one.
That's a good story,
Yeah.
man. That that reminds me of a case I had in which so this was man, I don't remember when this was, probably 2019 or so. Um Me and my partner at the time, my narcs partner, we would go out on days whenever we didn't have anything going on, and we would just go park in a parking lot and just people watch.
Yeah.
We would look for just weird stuff that didn't add up, stuff
Mhm.
that was just weird. Now, mind you, we were not in a cop car, so there was no presence thing, right?
Mhm.
They didn't have to react to our presence.
Yeah.
But, and another thing we would do, we would go drive through hotels and run plates and see, okay, this car is coming out of the valley, this car is
Yeah.
coming out of here. Okay, so this one particular day, we cruise to a hotel and we see it's like a Sprinter van backed in front of this hotel, and it's plated out of California.
Hmm.
So I run the plate, and it comes out of California. I don't remember which part I want to say it was LA. And so I said, that's cool. So we pulled off where we could have an eyeball on the van. I ran the driver. I'm sorry. I ran the owner of the vehicle through some databases, come up with the fact that he was arrested a few years prior for smuggling humans, and then also a dope case coming out of across the border down there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm like, this may be something
Yeah.
good. So I check LPR history on him, and there's scans all over I-10 back and forth
Oh, he's making moves. Yeah.
between Florida and California, right? So I'm like, this may be something cool. So we're sitting there for, I don't know, half an hour or so. And then we see this old junky van pull up. Like, I mean, it was the complete opposite of the Sprinter van. The Sprinter van was nice, right? It was a Dodge. It was like 2 years old, paid for. There was no lien. Um, and then we see this old crappy van pull up out of California as well. And we see two guys get out of the old van, go to the Sprinter van, open the back of the van, and they both grabbed a hold of a generator, and they carried a generator, each one of them inside into the hotel. Like, what in the world are they doing?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking they're smuggling dope in generators. I don't know, right? So we sit there. About 10 minutes later, we see each one of them come out carrying a generator. They put it in the back of the old van, and they take off.
That's weird.
Okay, let's go see
Yeah.
what they're up to. And so we follow them, and we get, I don't know, a couple miles outside of town. I go ahead and light them up. I'm in an unmarked car, but it has lights and everything in
Yeah.
it, right? Which was our, we do that all the time. We'll make stops in our unmarked car. So it wasn't a big deal. So pulled them over for traffic violation. I'm talking to the driver. My partner's talking to the passenger, and he says no. His story was that they get tools from his boss, is what he called them, out in California, and they take them across the country and they sell tools. That's what they do. That's their job. They sell tools. So, okay. He had, I don't know, a couple $1,000s on him. And so, we're talking, and he was starting to tell me about how he was. I asked him, how'd you meet the passenger? He's like, oh, I met him at Bible study. I said, oh, or he went to church with him. I said, oh, that's cool. I said, you're a church going man. He goes, yes, sir. I'm a church going man. I said, what's your favorite book of the Bible? His answer, the Book of Moses. So, oh, really? I haven't read that one.
Oh, that's a disclaimer that, of a God-fearing church-going man, trying to steer that. I love
Mhm.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
great.
He said, "The Book of Moses, that's my favorite book." I said, "Huh." I said, "I haven't heard of that one. I'll have to check that one out." So anyways, so we get consent. We ask him, "Hey, can we come back to your hotel and look for drugs? I wanna see if there's any drugs in your hotel." He's like, "Yeah, go ahead. Let's go." So we go back to the hotel. He drives his own car. He's not in
Sure.
custody.
Understood.
He's, free to go.
Mm.
He drives himself back there. We get there. He opens the door to the hotel room. We go in there. He gives us a search, or gives us a consent search hotel room. We don't find any dope in the trash can in there. However, we find stickers from generators scraped off in the trash can, and then there was a guitar case on the bed, and we looked in the guitar case, and there was stickers that say Honda on them, and there was a heat gun and a
Generator.
scrapers. So the generators. Then he takes us outside, and he opens up the back of the van. The generators that were in the van were Chinese generators, and so they were bringing them in, scraping off the Chinese emblems,
Counterfeit.
putting Honda on them, and then he showed us his phone. He was on his way to go sell those two generators to a guy off of Facebook, and so
Yeah.
That's their thing. They take Chinese
Yeah,
generators
cheap generator, make it look like a Honda name
and they
brand.
change them up to make them look like
Yeah,
a Honda
wow.
generator, and then they go all over the country, and that's what they've been doing. He showed me all his messages where he's been doing this all over the country. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I knew I had an offense here. I wasn't sure exactly what I had, so I went back, I looked it up, and it's trademark counterfeiting.
Yep.
And the offense goes based on the value of the item that you are purporting it to be. So if it's, it doesn't go on the value of the cheap generator, it goes on the value of what you're putting it out as. So the Honda generator,
Right.
right? So he had, let's say the Honda generator was $1,200. He had 28 of them in the van.
Wow.
So he caught a state jail felony. And so this was probably 11 o'clock at night. I called the district attorney on the phone and I said, hey, this is what I got. And I said, are you good with this? He's like, I've been the DA here for 20 years. I've never, ever had anybody arrest somebody for trademark counterfeiting. I said, well, here we go. It's the first time. And I said, he's got a bunch of cash. I want to seize that as
fruits of it.
as the proceeds of it, right? And he's like, hold on, let me look it up. And I said, I'll save you the time. I've already read chapter 59. This is one of the offenses that you can do it for. He's like, all right, let's do it then. So we seized his van. We seized all his money. We seized all the generators. We put him in jail for state jail felony. Of course, he bonds out a couple of days later. And then it took us like a year to finally get everything all cleared up. But ultimately we got the van awarded to us. Our SWAT team uses it now.
It's awesome.
Jump out van.
Yeah.
We got the cash, and it was all from just cruising through a parking lot of a hotel and just saying, you know what, that looks weird. Let me start digging into that. So
I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
It's great police work, and it's off the wall stuff. Like sometimes we're so like one dimensional on like we're on guns, and
exactly.
I love the off the wall stuff.
Yeah. It was awesome.
Being a nosy cop, it's a good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff, man. Nosy cops are great cops.
That's going to be the end of this episode, guys. I want to invite everybody to come back next week as we pick up with part 2 with Craig, and we get into some stories. Until next time, guys, we'll see y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Texas Narcos Podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Remember to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, share our podcast with your friends and family. You can find Texas Narcos Podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. Your continued support helps us to bring you stories like the one you just heard. Thank you, God bless, and we'll see you down the road on Texas Narcos.